We are now in aspect three of our session seven on Desjardins discussion of impact of information technology on our contemporary living. Here, we're going to discuss cyber technology with regard to the digital divide. With regard to the digital divide, there is the international digital divide and the national digital divide. International digital divide can be thought of in terms of the global north versus the global south, and the national digital divide in this country can be thought in terms of the internet as the primary good to which we would all have a right. And then the right to the internet is discussed in terms of Kantian and utilitarian arguments. The term digital divide refers to unequal access to cyber technology, mainly the internet, among different populations according to demographics. There is a new way to speak of the haves and the have nots. It no longer refers solely to wealth, but now also to access to the internet. The divide exists among nations. The citizens of the countries of the global north have greater access on average than the citizens of the global south. To a large extent, the divide is explained by that there is greater economic inequality and lower literacy rate, let alone literacy rates in English, in those countries in the global south. The accompanying question is whether the countries of the global north have an obligation to ensure internet access to the countries of the global south. We will pick that question up in the next section when we address whether there is such an obligation and why to the citizenry of our own country. There is disparity along the lines of income and race, as those two are unfortunately correlated to a significant extent due to past and present discrimination in this country. So there's disparity along the lines of income and race in this country. Efforts have been made in this country to overcome this divide, notably the Bill Clinton administration when it created the National Information Infrastructure Agency. Just as in the 1934 Communication Act that sought to provide greater access to citizens of this country to the telephone, the National Information Infrastructure Agency, created by Bill Clinton, attempted to increase access by everyone to the Internet. It was an attempt at universal Internet access, say through libraries, rather than universal Internet service for every person at their home or personal device. That distinction between access and service is an interesting one. Access is available to every individual, could be through something like libraries, whereas access to universal internet service would mean for persons at their homes or on their personal devices. The question was raised right away. Should it not be service rather than access that ought to provide to persons? We do, after all, provide free textbooks for all children rather than access to such textbooks at school. Let us ask the question straightforwardly at this point. Is there something like a right to the internet? Or, in other words, is the internet a primary good, much like food, shelter, and clothing that are provided as part of state or government assistance to anyone who is needy? It must be shown that the internet is a vital good, not a mere means of entertainment. The argument is that the internet is needed for two things: to participate in the democratic decision making and to ensure economic success for individuals. One cannot meaningfully participate in the democratic decision making without being informed, and one cannot be informed these days without the internet. Likewise, one cannot make meaningful decision about work and career without being informed about options with regard to these, and neither can one even apply to most jobs without the internet. We can conceive of a Kantian and a utilitarian justification of the above argument for the universal right to internet service. On the Kantian justification, in order for one to have autonomy and for it to be respected, one must participate in the democratic political life in the country. Otherwise, one is ruled by others rather than by oneself, as well as provide for oneself a satisfactory source of income. Otherwise, one is not very capable of achieving the goals that one sets for oneself. On a utilitarian justification, significant suffering is brought about for everyone if citizens of the country do not participate in its demographic politics. The few who would participate in politics are likely to vote in policies that benefit them, not everyone. Likewise, if citizens do not wisely choose work, everyone suffers, as production involves selling to and procuring resources from others. There is a debate, however, as to whether the internet is the kind of a primary good that the government, or all citizens collectively, that's the government, all citizens collectively. So there's a debate as to whether the internet is the kind of a primary good that the government has an obligation to provide to those without it in their own country or abroad. Recognizing the internet as a right may only go so far as obligation by the government to protect it, but not so far as to provide it. Private property is like this. The government and its citizens protect property by means of criminal justice, but do not provide it to everyone. So something like internet neutrality would be a way of protecting everyone's internet service, but it is certainly not providing internet service to everyone.